Studio, and I'm going to continue with putting the finishing touches on this piece today. I also have my reference photos to show you all of Deerland, and this is for a children's book that I'm running the Kickstarter for right now. I would greatly appreciate it if you'd go over to Kickstarter and check out Magnolia Fawn children's book by OtherRealm Studio. It's gonna look a little bit like this. Cover's not entirely done, but it's a pretty decent placeholder. So here's some of the completed pages. I have text hidden on these pages currently, but it's going to be a beautifully illustrated book, if I do say so myself, featuring the true stories of many of the, well, at least a few, of the orphan fawns rescued by Magnolia Fawn Rescue and Connie Hall. And you can find Magnolia Fawn Rescue on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and you can get to see, lots of pictures and videos of the rescued fawns. And they are truly such beautiful and also funny little creatures. They're just so terribly cute. But they're also very delicate, and they shouldn't be kept as pets. And it's very difficult to keep them alive. So right now, it's still pretty early in the season, and I think Connie has about 80 deer that 80 new fawns that she's taken care of. Some have been hit by cars, some have been orphaned. Let's put this up here. When their mothers were hit by cars, some have been displaced because of development. Right, and here's the picture I'm more or less going by. So you can see there's this massive patch of May-apples. There's several of these on the property that the deer released on. So I would like to figure out how to paint May-apples for this picture. It was so fascinating how they just form a little carpet that goes off into the distance like this. So that's what I want to try to do. I'm going to put these up on my upper screen. And stacked with all the other screens that I'm going to be trying to keep an eye on. So I've got the Restream chat, I've got OBS up here, I've got my playlist going, and I've got okay, this is a better picture that shows me close up what the May-apples look like. So yeah, I've got my photos all up there on the top screen. So, let me see. I'm going to want it in front of the trees and ground, but still behind my main figures, which are the deer. So that's going to be a new layer in between those. You can see where I have the shadows of the deer on another layer and some of the highlights. And let's change back to my default color set. They're right about a middle range green, but maybe a little bit darker than the vivid green. And then I can come back later. Let's see. Yeah, so I can come back later and add in some highlights if I need to. But yeah, but it's kind of a fascinating little plant that they're all up on these little stems, but they're all such a consistent height. So some of them seem to have 4 leaves and some seem to have 5. Which that's a little strange for a plant. And they're kind of in not quite a heart shape on the end. Let's see, if I start with a cross and then build it out a little bit. So it's good that there's so many on the property, because that's another food source for the deer, along with the beech nuts. There's a lot of beech trees around here, and those have been, they're really old growth trees, so they've been positively raining little beech mast everywhere. And lots of different kinds of foliage. So the deer are able to find different things to forage. Now I am kind of wondering how many of these I should draw individually and whether I should do some cutting and pasting in groups of them. Not because it's really any trouble to draw them individually, but it's important to keep them all consistent since they are some kind of, yeah, I think they share a root system. So I think it's important to keep them in groups so they'll look more realistic. If I do a little bit of copying and pasting. I mean, especially if the first few that I draw are individual and organic, and then I'll be able to overlap them a bit as well. Let's see, I need to make sure that as I go into the distance, they get a little smaller. And of course, after I make a nice colony of these, I still have a few other types of plants to add in, especially if this is going to represent the real deer land that the deer are released on. So I did take a few different pictures. Okay, let's take a look at how it'll go if I just select it all and run a copy and paste. And see if I can get back to that thick carpet of them. Okay, let's take these down and see if I have any that I need to erase from in front of where they would not actually be. Maybe what I need to do first is consolidate all these copy layers. Merge with layer below a couple times. Okay, so now I have a layer that's just May apples. It's fine for them to grow around the trees, but they don't really grow on the trees. They are strictly a ground cover sort of thing. Okay, I feel like I need to put in more tiny ones going off into the distance here, because, let me pull down my reference pictures again. Let's have you take a look. Okay, oh, that's the creek in the background, that's why I put that one. That's the hill, very hilly. Alright, I think the May apples were a little earlier in this series. Oh, there's a wild strawberry. There's the May apples again. So you see they get very light yellowy green going way off into the back, and they just look like little dapples. Oh, and here's the bloom on the May apple, if you can see that. Unfortunately, my phone decided to focus on the leaves, and I really wanted a picture of the flowers. Oh yeah, and this one was a very creepy looking tree that I found. Looks like there's teeth in it. Couldn't resist taking a picture of that one. And I believe that's a violet. Anyway. May apple. It's a cool plant. So yeah, let me change up to a more yellowy green and put in some of those details leading into the back. Oh yeah, and the middles of these are going to be a little lighter, so if I can just touch them about where they are. something interesting about Mayapples is that when the blooms turn into fruits and they are fully ripe, they're edible. But not until they're fully ripe, and I have not yet gone out there and found them at the correct time. I think that was pretty passable, actually. And I should also go over these leaves a little bit. I'm going to move that. Okay, let's see. Come on. There it goes. So, you might notice that the Fallen Leaves brush in Clip Studio is actually very accurate. Oh, what am I looking at? Where'd it go? Alright. Is actually very accurate to the kinds of leaves that you see here, like especially this one. Oh, that's a very strange tree that's on the property. In the picture that I was trying to take a picture of the bloom on the Mayapple, you can see this wonderfully crisp detail below the rather blurry Mayapple bloom that is extremely similar to the Fallen Leaves tool. So if you have tools that work, there's nothing wrong with using them. So let's see, how big do they turn out? This size. Okay, so it's a decent size, but I need to adjust the color. Alright, let's make them a little darker, like that. And I'll just scatter a few up closer where there would be more detail. If I was going to do a full-size, life-size portrait, then I would probably be painting these individually. However, it's a book. So the book is probably going to be 8.5 by 8.5 inches, unless there is some compelling reason for it to be otherwise. That I might find out like during the process of getting it printed. I don't really anticipate any problems like that, but you know, anything can happen. Let's see. I'll probably be using Ingram Spark. That's how I got my novel published. So I'll be happy to be working with them again. Alright, let's reset the display. I like it. I like how it turned out. Hey Joe, how you doing? I think 8 o'clock's a decent time to do these. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy with this. Yeah, unless I come back to it later and say, oh no, it's not really finished. I think I'm pretty happy. This is a good page. Maybe there's not a whole lot of room to put text on it. That's okay, I can put text on the next page. It'll be fine. Well goodness, now what do I draw? Didn't have a plan. I was thinking that maybe I can take out the background for, most of it. So if I take out everything, then we have our two figures here on a clear background. And that might make it onto some, I don't know, a coffee mug, a t-shirt, or really if we put all the background on it. Oh, now it's just winter. Let's make it spring again. So I guess even with the background, it would look pretty good on a coffee mug. I kind of have a little bit of a pet peeve about square images on something like a t-shirt. It just doesn't look flattering on the shirt. But yeah, I might be able to do something else with this. Could make a poster. Or another art print. So y'all let me know, leave comments, or go to the Kickstarter. Let's see, I have that. Yeah. Or you can go to the Kickstarter, kickstarter.com/project/OtherRealm Studio/Magnolia Fawn Children's Book. And, leave me a comment or a question and ask, specifically for this page, if you would like it to be on a different reward or another reward tier, I can do that. Let's see, we have the ebook edition of the book that'll just be $3 because I don't have to print or ship that. We'll have the signed paperbacks signed by both me and Connie um, for 12, which is extremely reasonable for a fully illustrated children's book. And the book and art print for 25. These don't include the shipping cost. The shipping with this is about $7 or $8. You can get a book pretty much to any state in the U.S. for about $7 or $8. And I also have the bookshop special for 10 copies for $100. And I'll just bundle them all together and ship them all at once. So you save on some shipping if you have like a big family and you want to give these out as Christmas gifts, or if you have a bookshop and you want to just stock up. Currently, we're at like a tenth of the way there. But we have 27 days to go. So there's time for you to get in. Not a lot of time, but enough time. Alright, let's pull that down again. And also, if you look for Connie on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, at Magnolia Fawn Rescue, you'll be able to see all the videos and pictures of all the rescued deer, all the ones that she's taken care of in her sanctuary, as well as the new ones that come in. Let's see. Alright, what was this layer again? Okay. That was just a guideline layer. This is a rough sketch layer. Let me see. I think I pretty much have the little deer done, but I want to get the carrier done. Mostly she uses a specific soft-sided carrier, so maybe I should get pictures of the one she uses. No, wait, that one's for rescuing them. Anyway, new layer. So this is very important for fawn that are going to be released, and that is their bed buddy. And that's going to be let's make it blue. So they need a bed buddy in order to help them imprint on other deer. Because if they do not imprint on other deer, then they have no choice but to imprint on humans. And that's not good, because humans make terrible deer. And so, you know, when the deer grows up and starts instinctively doing things like wanting to play, wanting to spar, and they get aggressive as adolescents and start growing little spikes. And they think, you know, that their playmates have always been dogs or children, or even adults, really. And they start playing these rough deer games, and somebody's gonna get hurt. So that's why people can't just rescue a fawn and raise it. I suppose technically you can, but it's a terrible idea. Not because, you know, you're trying to do anything bad, but because your good intentions are not going to turn out the way you hoped. Let me see. We'll go a little darker with some in this corner. Putting in background shows me where I've missed when trying to do all the white markings. So yeah, usually people will find one fawn and attempt to raise it like they would raise any baby animal. And some people are pretty good at it and they manage to actually make the fawn live, but it's not going to grow up realizing that it's a deer. And they can't be turned loose because they won't have the learned behaviors. And so, they grow up thinking that they need to be around kids frequently. They think they need to be around children. And it's just not safe, really. We put a mesh on these sides. So it's very important to not raise them closely and lovingly like you would an animal that needs to be handled when it grows up. You need to raise them with as little contact with people as possible. And that's got to be one of the hardest things that a wildlife rehabber learns how to do. Because you don't get into this line of work without being compassionate, I guess. And without being very good at raising young animals. Another spot where I've mistaken the background for a painted white. Okay, so what I want to do to accomplish this bit right here, that I'm going to want to make the ventilation on the sides, I'm going to want to start with a rectangle. And then So if it starts off looking like this, then I'm going to want to put my diagonal lines in. And these aren't going to be perfectly spaced. But I guess they're pretty decent for eyeballing them. And then I'm going to switch to a clearer background and make this bigger. Let's see how that, whoa, a little bigger than I expected it to be. So I could do the grid on the side like that, or I might have anything good in the ruled lines? Not particularly. Goodness, how small did I have that set? Let's see. So the ruled lines are kind of nice because they do straighten out. But I think that the width of the dash line is not exactly what I want here. Could go over it again. Okay, so if I try the dash line first, then go over it with the short straight line at about 150, then that lets me know exactly where I should put my line. And I can make a fairly consistent standard grid here. This is probably not like the ideal way to do it. There's probably better tools out there. But it seems to function. Hang on. Okay. So this is, let's see, let's make this kind of rectangle and go over it again. A little bit bigger this time. Alright, so this is part one of getting the grid for the sides. So now what we're going to do, we're going to select this, and then we go down into Edit, go into Transform, and we want, I feel like we want perspective, but we might end up having to do this as a free transform. If you go into perspective and you widen the front, then it looks like it's turned out towards you. Okay, let's cancel that. Let's do copy. We'll paste. We'll have one on an extra layer to work with later. And let's go back into transform. Let's see if we can do this with perspective and fit it into place. Yeah, it doesn't really make it shorter. So let's go back to, yes, come on, finish saving. So let's go back to the transform. So if you go into free transform, you have something that's definitely going to have to be fitted into a space that you've made for it. Then you can do pretty much the same thing with the free transform tool and not have to worry about whether the perspective that you're trying to do is ever going to match up. Okay. So that looks right. Let's take this one. And let's change the color on this side to the lighter color. I'm going to brush in some shading later. So I'm not terribly fussed about getting the color and the shade perfect. Right, free transform again. We'll just fit it into place like it's a little window. This is probably not the official way to do things, but I am pretty much self-taught on this software, so we're just gonna have to deal with it. Anyway, you get the idea that it's it's a dog carrier that is currently carrying deer. Yep, that's a cool effect too, but not what I wanted. Try and keep that contained. Hide these guys so I can see what. And let's come in here with some shadow. Go into light grayish. Um, Add a new layer. Make the new layer a multiply. And come up with an appropriate uh, size for the shadow. So these two are a bonded pair, since they were bed buddies since they were rescued, and this little doe had run into a fence, and her face was all scarred up, but the little buck who was put in with her, uh, he just really took a liking to her and took care of her and was always licking her face and uh, making sure she was okay. So it's really good for them to have a buddy, because deer are, ultimately, these are herd animals. They don't do well by themselves. And no matter what kind of upbringing that you try to give them, they're always going to go back to their instincts. Alright, let me get in here and fix the places where I thought I had put in white for the ears and did not actually, because I was working against a white background. Alright, I don't see anything else. Maybe a little bit here on his muzzle. Oh, one thing that I do want to do sometime in this series, while I'm painting this book, I would like to paint some piebalds, because several of them end up in the sanctuary at Magnolia Falls, and they're so cute. I mean, the patterns on their coats are so beautiful. Unfortunately, the reason that they end up in the sanctuary at Magnolia Falls is because the piebald gene comes with a lot of birth defects. So they're gonna, most of them are going to have some sort of issue with dwarfism, with their guts sometimes. Um, their legs will frequently be wonky and turned in, and they're abandoned frequently because they can't walk. Um, a fawn has to be able to follow its mother, and if it can't, then she's got to leave it. If it can't even stand up to nurse, then there's nothing she can do. She has to move on. So frequently a piebald deer will be, if you happen to find a piebald fawn and its legs are not straight, then chances are it really has been orphaned or abandoned. And Connie will take those in and get a permit to take care of them in the sanctuary. And so now she's got quite a collection of piebald deer. But I'm going to have to either find reference pictures that I've taken in the past or go over and get some new ones. Let's see. I think I did a little too much blending last time I worked on this guy, because some of the blue behind him is showing through. But now I want to blend again, because I was happy with how the blending looked until, blue was behind it. Maybe I should just paint behind him a bit. It's a little cheaty, but it's not bad. Oh. Alright, try that again. Alright, I do still need to touch up this carrier a little bit, but it's working out. Let's make sure we save our progress. Let's not cause any more disasters. Make sure that one's saved too. So yeah, somewhere in here I want to do a piebald. Let's see, we'll have cover, we'll have some forest, Connie and her house, and one of the interesting things about the deer when she rescues the fawn, she will put like the younger ones in her house. And they live in playpens for a long time. And they're ready to move into the outside barn when they start jumping out of the playpens. It's good for them though. It teaches them how to jump fences. It's an important life skill for a young deer. Okay, this is one that I had roughed in, I think, on my tablet last year when I was just beginning to work on this project. So I've been wanting to do this for a long time. It's just, I've had a lot going on. I've had other children's book commissions and some cover commissions that I've worked on, um, which were really fun, and I learned a lot. And that also gave me the confidence to do this project on my own. And so now that I've had so much steady work and done some art almost every day, on average, um, I feel like my skills have finally improved to a level to that I'm confident that I can do an entire children's book, full of illustrations, and feel like I've really given it my best this time. The thing that stops me the most is feeling like what I'm putting down on the page is not measuring up to the vision in my head, and I really think that this time I've got it. I guess enough practice will do that to you. Finally, what's in my mind is being matched by what my hand and my eye can do. So my style for this book is going to be very textured, very real. Not hyper realistic uh, in a photographic way, but in a way that I want people to be able to see the textures and feel what they'd feel like. Not thoughtlessly added, like an AI would do it, just mixing textures and going with whatever might stick, but really with thought put to how it's perceived. And so that's also part of the reason why I'm doing such long process videos. I want you to know that I personally sat here and thought about each and every one of these illustrations, that even though I am working on a screen, I'm not allowing AI to do this for me. Um, I'm not I'm not plugging in terms and hoping that whatever gets spit out matches what I have in mind. That's, there probably is a place for uh, computer generated images. I mean, perhaps even in children's books. Why not? Everything else seems to be. Um, but not this. Not here. Not now. This is this is a project I'm doing to recognize my sister and what she does in real life every day, getting up, um, going outside, and checking on, you know, currently 80, probably going to be over 100 deer, staying up all night with babies, pretty much. Um, feeding them, medicating them, keeping them warm, making them live. This is, it just does not seem like the sort of thing that you can trust even the most sophisticated computer program to really get across. And I could have gone out with a camera and tried to do this with photos, but that still doesn't capture the deer, I don't think. I don't I don't think it really captures the work even if you take photos, because that doesn't it still doesn't really get across the feeling of them. In animation, they're not looking for, the artists don't really look for exact representations in every frame. You have movies for that. What you do is you exaggerate and highlight different aspects of the image that you're working with in order to make it come to life. And I'm kind of trying to do that here with the texture and the composition and the feeling and the poses, and, well, not even poses exactly. But yeah, it's just really important to me that I do this by hand and I consciously make choices with every brushstroke, even if it is a virtual brush. And some of these conscious choices are very quick ones, and maybe maybe I'm not a good enough artist for them to always be the right choices. Like all the time. But that's how I improve my art and grow as an artist. And also, there is a certain charm to leaving some of the mistakes in. People will always make slightly different mistakes than a computer would. Okay. Oh, and this right here, this is going to be a foam at the bottle rack. The bottle rack is another important piece of equipment, or a piece of the puzzle in raising a deer that can be released one day. Because, you know, it can be very difficult to get a fawn to start taking a bottle, but once they learn, they really take to it. So there's no need to keep hand feeding them, and you kind of need to get them off of the idea that people will feed them. So, and you can find lots of really cute videos of this, especially if you go to Magnolia Fawn Rescue's Instagram and TikTok. What they use is a bottle rack. So it's a little framework, and the bottles are lined up and uh, propped up in holes so that the deer just line up with them and drink their bottles. It's really cute. They all line up and wag their little tails, and sometimes they try stealing their neighbors when they finish off theirs too fast, and they'll get their necks and their legs crossed over sometimes. It's really funny. If you haven't seen that, you need to go look it up. And they're always so enthused. Like, they really yank on those things. Makes you kind of feel bad for Mama Deer. But yeah, once you have the bottle racks up and all the little deer are lined up at them, then they're imprinting on the other deer, being part of the herd, and, not being fussed with people, which is what we want. So yeah, the more they can spend the time with their own kind uh, and not be handled, the better it is for them to imprint on each other, and they can eventually be released and not be nuisance deer that have to be put down later. Because they're hanging out at elementary schools and trying to play with the children, and they've got, spikes. I need another reference picture of the bottle rack. And I should, for realism here, I should probably make it a whole line of little deer lined up at it. But yeah, I'm not 100% confident that I can do the bottle rack from memory. And when Connie started out, uh, she used uh, 2 liter bottles, uh, just reused, washed out and reused 2 liter bottles um, from, A&W mostly, for the deers, for the phone's baby bottles. And so they'd be lined up at the bottle rack, and it would be filled with A&W bottles. We always said that A&W needed to give her a sponsorship. But now I think she's gotten real bottles, uh, like regular ones, for, let's see, what are they from? Whatever the veterinarians use. So now she has real ones in the little fawn art, looking like they're drinking from A&W bottles anymore. It's a little sad. Because that was fun. A little happier with the lighter brown. I'm going to put a little bit of grass underneath here. Later. I have to come back to this page and add a few more deer. Let's see, which one is my, there's my sketch layer. Let's see, they always seem to have their ears turned back. And see, it's kind of funny how the way they stand is so consistent, but they always get into so much trouble too at the same time. So you'd think they'd all be standing in line and behaving themselves, but no, they get their necks looped around and try to drink from someone else's, and uh, their long legs tangled up with each other. So sometimes when they're learning how to use it, they need straightened out a bit, but not a lot. Hmm. Perspective starting to mess with me a little bit. So I've got to wrap this up soon. Um, I guess my homework is get a picture of that bottle rack. And also a picture of the piebalds. Save. Alright, I'm going to try and be back here again starting at 8 o'clock. It seems to be a decent time. And don't forget, you can find me on Twitch, on YouTube, and we have the Magnolia Foam children's book on Kickstarter. You know, I only have a limited number of rewards for this, so I'm not planning a very big print run. So if you want one, you need to pledge now for your signed copy. Also, the most popular reward is going to be the book and art print so far, and that's the one that comes with an 8x10 signed art print. This is actually a little portrait of Jessie, who had a very unusual story. And this is really about how big he was when he was born. And not only did Connie save him, but he survived and thrived and eventually thrived and lives in the sanctuary. So don't forget Magnolia Fawn Rescue. You can find the rescue itself on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, and they also have a website. I don't have that up here just yet. And you can also go to Kickstarter and uh, um, select a pledge for the book, and when it's done, I will send you your copy. So kickstarter.com/projects/OtherRealm Studio /Magnolia Foam Children's Book, and you should be able to find it. There's not going to be another book just like this. I can't imagine that there is. There are very few books about deer, and this one will be filled with the stories, the real life stories of many of the orphan fawn that have been rescued by Connie Hall at Magnolia Fawn. So we don't have very long left. So head on over there, find it. You can back the project immediately, or you can set a reminder. Obviously, I can't. So I hope you'll come check it out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Bye.